The Democratic Alliance list of demands has been leaked. And John and Helen, they are big, big dreamers. Big, big dreamers. All of a sudden, the Democratic Alliance believes in cadre deployment. In their manifesto, they identified 3 problems in South Africa. Number 1 was cadre deployment. Number 2 was corruption. Number 3 was crime. And all of a sudden, the DA, I got the device right here. They want to be deployed. I've never seen such flip-flopping, It's not only the EFF which should be accused of flip-flopping. We should start looking at everybody and saying there's a lot of flip-flops over here. There are more flip-flops here than there are at a Durban beach. I can tell you that right now. So I'm going to go into some of their demands, but it's important to recognize that the rand actually fell a little bit today. It's gone back over $1 is to 18. It's, I think, 18.15. So we're seeing that the rand is not happy with the way these negotiations are going. The markets are not happy with the way these negotiations are going. And the reason why is because this was supposed to be the stability option. This was supposed to be the option which brought adults into the room. Cyril Ramaphosa, Tumamina, and Helen Zille, the great premier of the Western Cape. They were supposed to sort everything out like adults, negotiate like professionals. And now what we're seeing is, it's anything but negotiate like professionals. It's egos, it's leaks, it's all manner of, disorganized negotiation, to be quite honest with you. And now we are approaching 1 week after the inauguration of the president. And that's 7 days out of 100 days. The markets are saying, hey, this thing is not looking the way we thought it would look. That's the reality. And I want to say, there was a conversation that, the EFF had unreasonable demands. They said, no, we can't deal with the EFF. These comrades or these fighters, they said hey, look now, DA, they're coming with some hard demands. They're coming with some hectic demands on their side as well. So now, I wonder if the idea that the EFF had unreasonable demands is still one that is logically sound or true, or was it ever a real argument? But I think to give DA the benefit of the doubt, before we go into these demands in particular, in negotiation, you don't start with what you want. You start high, aim high, and then you get negotiated down, and then you basically split the difference at some point, right? You look for a win-win. So if they came in there and said they want 3 cabinet positions, senior cabinet positions, they would get 1. So they have to actually start high and then work their way down. And they also do have the moral high ground. The ANC didn't win the election outright, right? They won on a plurality, but they didn't win a majority. And so they have to work with the other kids. Let's look at what the DA has been demanding here. Right, here's the letter. It's been leaked. It's all over the place, all over social media. I printed it out. Let's go over it very quickly. Dear Mr. Mbalula, thank you for your letter. The DA remains committed to being part of the multi-party government. Hey, not GNU, multi-party government. They know this is not a GNU, right? We believe that the government should give effect to the preamble. Our decision on whether to join such a government will, in the end, depend on our ability to effect such a change. We have a mandate from 3.5 million voters to do so. And it would be a betrayal of them and of all the people of South Africa if we were to enter a government in which we're inhibited from delivering. The election results requires that power be shared in a new government. That means power cannot continue to reside solely with the ANC. It also requires that we respect the size of the ANC's mandate from the electorate. Please be assured that we do. The proposal we set out in our letter to the President on the 21st of June gave full and accurate expression to the Statement of Intent. It did not, as you suggest, propose strict proportionality in the distribution of cabinet seats. On the contrary, it set out a clear, reasonable, fair way in which to operationalize Clause 16 of our agreement. which seeks to respect both the will of the people as expressed in the election and the need for inclusivity in the national interest. It is obvious that the distribution of positions in the cabinet can only start with the consideration to the relative electoral size of the parties participating in government. Governments, by definition, are made up of parties participating in government. They are not made up of parties in opposition. That is what parliament is for. This is the first time any difference of interpretation in this regard has been expressed. Then they go on to list, they list what they want. But before we get that, consequently, we set out again our approach to ensuring that cabinet represents the will of the people as expressed in the election and inclusivity in the national interest. This approach starts by determining the number of posts each party to the statement of intent will be entitled to if the election outcome as reflected in our proportional representative system was the only consideration. This covers the will of the people imperative in clause 16. The ANC and the DA as the largest parties would then be required to sacrifice posts proportionally to an inclusivity pot. This covers the inclusivity in the national interest imperative in clause 16 of that statement of intent which was signed. The outcome of this process would produce a cabinet and deputy ministerships to which both the ANC and DA as the largest parties would contribute posts proportionally, as proposed by David Makura, the ANC's chief negotiator. He used the term proportionate dilution to capture it. The tables provided in our previous letter to the president refer. It is impossible to conclude this approach does anything other than give fair, reasonable, and accurate effect to clause 16 of the statement of intent. You see, my English bundles are running out. I've got to move fast, right? Given the need to now progress to these discussions, we include below a number of specifics that are essential to ensuring that the Democratic Alliance is able to give effect to positive change in government. The cabinet positions the DA holds should rightly include the post of deputy president, as it is standard practice in similar governments around the world. They really want that DP for John Steenhuisen. I don't think it's going to happen. We can only agree to give up that post if it is replaced with both a minister in the presidency who is also designated as the leader of government business. That's basically vice president with another name. You're in the presidency, you're dealing with government business. That is the responsibility of the vice president, typically. So if you're saying you want that, but you want it with another name, that's still the same power. That what does Paul Mashitile then do in the absence of these particular powers, right? Right, and a deputy, they say they also want a deputy minister of finance who participates fully in the development of the budget. It is also reasonable and fair that the DA should have representation across all cabinet clusters to speed matters along. We set out here our preferred portfolios in each cluster. Then they set out their clusters. Hey, you know what the DA wants? Do you know what our DA wants? Do you know what they want? This is what they want. In the economic sector, they want Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy. That's not going to happen now. That's Gwede's job now. That's not good. You're not going to get that one. You're not going to get that one. Oh, it's not going to happen. Oh, that's too much. There's no way that the ANC president will give up a portfolio that was being held by his chairperson of the party. It can't. That's like asking John to take away a job from Helen to give it to Julius Malema. John will never do that. Why would you? Hey. Anyway, they also want Ministry of Transport with Transnet reallocated to this portfolio so they can privatize it properly. Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition. These are their, okay. They also, in social protection, they want Ministry of Public Works and Infrastructure, right? They want Ministry of Higher Education. Ministry of Higher Education. Look, Blade Nzimande has done a bad job. He has done a bad job. The blade is very blunt. It doesn't even cut butter. You cannot cut an avocado with Blade Nzimande's blade. But the Democratic Alliance has a fundamentally different view to how to create access to higher education than many people have. They want to issue loans And you know, one of the biggest donors to the Democratic Alliance is Michel Leroux, the owner of Capitec, or the founder of Capitec. He's still a major shareholder in Capitec. So, no, this seems to me like it's a conflicted ideological approach to how higher education should be administered. The Democratic Alliance has also been very hostile to black vice chancellors. They've been very hostile to any talk of decolonization of tertiary education. And by the way, decolonization doesn't mean that you are getting rid of mathematics or getting rid of science. 1 + 1 is always going to be 2. And by the way, a lot of science and mathematics was developed in Africa, in Timbuktu. Africa had the first universities. Egypt was developing writing. Africans believe in mathematics because we participated in the creation of mathematics. Those pyramids that are perfect. You see a pyramid, you see how the angles are just smooth like that. You think come on, man. We've been doing maths before maths was fashionable. Maths, we were doing it in Africa before. Come on, guys, come on. Get out of here, man. So the Ministry of Higher Education, no, it cannot work for the DA. They want to have Ministry of Public Service and Administration, Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs. In Justice, they want Ministry of Justice. They want Ministry of Home Affairs. They do not want anything to do with labor. DA talk about reducing the minimum wage. Now all of a sudden I don't want to touch it. It's because the problems in labor are very difficult to solve, and all of the arguments that they make are irrational. And they know that if they get that ministry, they won't be able to change anything or do anything, because a lot of the stuff that they say is not grounded in anything. How can you want to reduce minimum wage when it's 3.5? It's already low, right? So the DA is avoiding that ministry. They don't want to touch it because they only want places where they can go and do things for the market, help their donors, but where they can demonstrate privatization and come on, man. They don't want police. They don't want police. The DA spent a lot of time talking about farm murders. When I asked them about the murders in the Western Cape, they said, no, policing is a national function. They don't want policing all of a sudden. But don't you want, like, the Western Cape is one of the highest murder capitals in South Africa. Cape Town is a murder capital, don't you? You know, Cape Town, because the murders don't happen in all of the areas, they happen in concentrated areas. We forget that Cape Town is really leading in murders. Some of the top 10 police stations where murders are reported are in Cape Town. They are. So why you govern the Western Cape Democratic Alliance? Why don't you want policing? Don't you want to show us what you can do in the policing ministry? You don't want it, ne? You had your guy there telling Pegicele all of these insults and all of that stuff, Mr. Blackface himself. But you don't want to give Ian Cameron a chance nyana there in policing. Come on, DA. Anyway, this is what they say. They say then we would, so that's they want Ministry of Internet. Guys, you're not going to get this from the ANC. They want Ministry of International Relations and Cooperation. It's not going to happen. John went to Ukraine. They're not gonna get that thing. There's such a difference of opinion between the Democratic Alliance and the ANC on international relations. It's not gonna happen. Ministry of Communications and Digital Technologies, right? They also want that one. I don't think they're gonna get it. Basically, they're asking. They don't want sports. You don't want sports, dear. You love rugby. Come on, Helen. I've seen you there. You love rugby. You love stronger together things. Don't you want sports? Sports is a serious portfolio, guys. Sports is a serious portfolio. You don't want sports. You can do a lot for tourism, sports tourism to Cape Town. You don't want that portfolio. Anyway, these are the demands from the Democratic Alliance. They seek to have deputy ministers in the same ministries as we have ministers, with the exception of the finance ministry, where we would my English bundles, where we would only be appointed to the post of deputy minister as set out earlier. It is obviously impossible to effect positive change in government in the process of government and key personnel in government. What am I saying? It is obviously impossible to effect positive change in government if the processes of government and key personnel in government obstruct the Democratic Alliance at every turn. It is therefore also necessary that we agree on the following. that director generals in departments reporting to the Democratic Alliance ministers are selected by panels constituting of Democratic Alliance ministers. Yeah. Ain't this the Al-Qaeda deployment that the DA don't like? Ain't this that? Ain't that one? It is that one. It is, right. They say the contracts of all current DGs, Director Generals, would also need to be reconsidered in light of our concern that incumbents may not be amenable to the direction from Democratic Alliance ministers, especially given the ANC's cadre deployment policy. So we want to remove your cadres, we want to put our cadres. Only we don't call our cadres cadres, we call them boots, we call them bruv. We call what do they call each other there when they're being collegial? Mates. They call each other mates. They want to put their mates there in the DGs. That all tenders in departments reporting to the Democratic Alliance ministers issued since the promulgation of the election date be reviewed. It is obviously not possible to effect change in a context where recent decisions by the previous government are rendered irreversible. Right? So they want to review tenders. That a technical clearinghouse is established consisting of a representative from each participating party with a mandate to resolve differences over policies and other decisions of government by consensus before they become a source of conflict in the cabinet. In the event that consensus isn't possible, sufficient consensus would be required as contemplated in clause 19.3 of the Statement of Intent. In the event that differences prove particularly intractable, they would need to be resolved by the President and leader of the Democratic Alliance. This approach would give proper effect to Clause 19 of that statement. Finally, please be advised. Here's the warning. Warning. Please be advised that the Democratic Alliance participation in governments in Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal depend on our participation in government at a national level. That is a threat from the Democratic Alliance. If you don't give us what we want, MK and EFF are coming. Give us. You're not going to give us. We take your coalition, we put it in microwave, we turn it on, we say, give us. Ministry of Public Works, Ministry of Higher Education, Ministry of Minerals, Transport, Trade, Justice, Home Affairs, International Relations, Communication. You're not going to give us. You're not going to give us. You're going to give us. You're going to give us. That's what the DA is saying in a nutshell. That's what they're saying. They want you to know. And then we would like to reiterate once again that we remain fully committed to participating in governments in which we would be able to effect positive change for the people of South Africa. Our country faces a unique opportunity now to implement programs that would boost job creation, alleviate poverty, provide security, education, healthcare, and social support our people so desperately need. We stand ready to deliver on these imperatives with you and other signatories to the Statement of Intent. Yours sincerely, Helen Ziller, Chairperson of the Federal Council. That's what the DA is making threats. They're asking for things here. You're gonna... The DA is acting like they have a binding contract with the ANC. They don't have a binding contract. It's a political document, you know. They are, I think, over-flexing their muscles, and they won't be able to necessarily pull off everything that they're asking for here. But this could be a negotiating tactic, right? Leak this to the media, let the media know what your arguments are, and then have... the ANC try to come back, markets start moving the rand a little bit, let them know that they're not happy, and then people put pressure on President Ramaphosa. Hey, give some of these people some senior ministries. It's also curious to me they don't want basic education. Why not? Why not, DA? You don't want to educate the youth. You just want to control universities. 13 million kids in public schools across the country, almost a quarter of the country. Learning. Future generations. Don't you want to, because you believe in equity and all of that stuff, meritocracy, don't you want to create a meritocratic society, an egalitarian society? I mean, basic education. I mean, if you just ask for basic education, just say, no, we have one demand. One demand, give us basic education. Why not? It's a big portfolio, big budget, over 300 billion. Why don't you want it? There's a letter that came from the ANC today. I'm going to just go through it as fast as I can. ANC update on phase 2 of the establishment of the Government of National Unity. The African National Congress notes with concern that some parties have been making outlandish and outrageous demands for specific cabinet positions in the media. Negotiating through leaking demands to the media is an act of bad faith, and this practice will not help the cause of any party. It is only the president who has the final say on the appointment of the cabinet. The GNU cannot be held ransom by any single party. The people need a government to be established sooner rather than later. The ANC confirms that since the announcement of the historic agreement between 10 South African political parties to form an ANC-led government of national unity for the 7th Democratic Administration, phase 2 of the establishment of the GNU is well underway, with the highly anticipated announcement of the cabinet by President Cyril Ramaphosa drawing close. The outcome of the 2024 national provincial election made it clear that 30 years into democracy, South Africans want political parties to work together to solve the important challenges facing the country and improve the lives of our people. The ANC, as a party that received the largest number of votes after considering various options towards the formation of government, resolved that the GNU model would be the best fit model to fit the national interest, and took initiative to engage all parties which won party seats towards the formation of a government of national unity. Intense talks led by the ANC with all these parties since the announcement of election results saw a total of 10 out of 18 parties joining the GNU initiative by the 22nd of June. The 10 parties include ANC, DA, IFP, PA, FF, UDM, Rise Mzansi, Al Jama, PAC, and GOOD. Together, these parties represent an overwhelming majority of over 70%, 287 of the 400 seats in the National Assembly. During this first phase towards the formation of the ANC-led GNU, parties in the parliament also work together to select the Speaker, Deputy Speaker, President, as well as the Chairperson of the NCOP. Presidential legislative governments have been established in Limpopo, Eastern Cape, Northwest Free State, and Mpumalanga, where the ANC has an outright majority. A government led by the ANC in Northern Cape, government led by the DA in the Western Cape, where it has an outright majority, and a government of the provincial unity led by the IFP in KZN. The Premier, Speaker, Deputy Speaker have been elected in Gauteng, and work is in progress to establish the government of provincial unity in Gauteng towards the GNU cabinet. The second phase of the process to appoint the National Executive Cabinet in line with the Constitution is underway. This will be based on the following principles: A, an inclusive approach; B, GNU cooperation, which includes both Parliament and the Executive; C, consultations with leaders of the parties; D, the Constitution confers the executive authority of the Republic on the President as head of the state and national executive. The President appoints the cabinet, assigns functions to ministers, and ministers report to cabinet, who operate as a collective. Once the GNU cabinet is formed, ministers act as members of cabinet responsible for their portfolios and collectively in the interest of the nation and not their parties or sectors. The President will announce the cabinet in the following days based on the above principles. And finally, this is what they say: once cabinet is formed, Parliament will start its work to establish its structures, including portfolio committees and other structures of responsibility as prescribed in the Constitution. It's the ANC's wish to see that these processes are not unnecessarily delayed, so that the 7th administration can get on with the urgent task of attending to the people's priorities, tackling unemployment, growing an inclusive economy, industrialization, investing in people, improving and expanding the quality of basic services, tackling crime and corruption, advancing nation building and social cohesion, which are the issues that South Africans voted for. Similarly, all-inclusive national dialogue remains an urgent priority to get all sectors of society and indeed the nation involved in solutions to these the most urgent challenges we face. Let's do more together. And they're saying, hey, ngeke sizwe ngani wena DA sizontshela. That's what they're saying. It's a summary. That's what they're saying. So this is where things are. What do you think? What do you think about letter number 1, DA? Letter number 2, ANC, which is basically a attack, but with more pages. What do you think is going to happen here? Is this the stability? Is this the maturity? Is this the cohesion? Is this what the markets wanted? Markets? Mr. Market? Johan Market? Is this what you wanted? I don't know. What do you guys think, though? Let's have a conversation. What do you think about this political crinkum? This higi haga? Let's have a conversation. Till the next one.